Before the Lincoln penny became the most ignored coin in America, before spare change was tossed into jars, cup holders, and forgotten drawers, a quiet chapter of history was written in copper and steel. In the early 1900s and during the chaos of world wars, the U.S. Mint struck Lincoln wheat pennies under pressure, shortages, and secrecy. Most were ordinary, most were spent, most were lost forever. But a microscopic number were different, born from wrong metals, experimental dyes, and emergency decisions never meant to leave the mint walls. Officials tried to destroy them. Collectors hunted them. Time tried to erase them. Yet a few survived, traveling through decades unnoticed, passing from hand to hand, hiding in plain sight while their value silently exploded. Today, just 3 ultra-rare historical Lincoln wheat pennies are worth more than luxury cars, more than homes, even more than gold. And the most chilling truth is this: one of these legendary coins could still be sitting in a pocket, a jar, or an old family collection, waiting for someone to realize they've been holding history and a fortune all along. The year 1944 holds a very special place in the long and fascinating history of the wheat penny. The Lincoln Wheat Penny series began in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and it continued through 1958, featuring the famous wheat ears design on the reverse. But among all the years of production, the 1944 wheat penny stands out not only for its massive mintage, but also for the stories that surround it. This coin tells a tale that combines American history, World War II economy, and minting innovation all together in one small piece of copper. In 1944, the United States was still deeply involved in World War II, and this had a direct impact on the materials used for coinage. During the war, copper was a vital resource needed for ammunition shell casings and military equipment. As a result, in 1943, the U.S. Mint experimented by making pennies out of zinc-coated steel instead of copper. However, those 1943 steel cents rusted easily and were unpopular with the public by 1944. The Mint decided to return to a copper-based composition, but with a twist. Instead of using newly mined copper, they used recycled materials primarily from spent shell casings collected from military training grounds. This act symbolized America's wartime resourcefulness, turning instruments of war back into coins for peace. The 1944 wheat penny was produced at 3 mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint left its mark in history. The Philadelphia Mint produced the most coins with no mint mark. The Denver Mint marked its coins with a small D under the date, and San Francisco with an S. The total mintage for 1944 exceeded 1.5 billion coins, making it one of the most common wheat pennies ever struck yet. Despite its abundance, the coin holds immense sentimental and historical value for collectors because of its wartime origin. The composition of the 1944 penny was roughly 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. This gave it a distinct reddish-brown hue that has remained attractive to collectors even decades later because of the recycled metal. Many of these coins developed unique toning patterns over time, giving each piece a slightly different look and feel in some cases. You can even find coins that appear more yellow or darker than typical wheat cents from other years. This is one reason why collectors love searching through 1944 pennies for interesting variations. One of the most fascinating stories connected to the 1944 penny is the accidental creation of the 1944 steel cent. A few leftover steel planchets from 1943 somehow got mixed in during the 1944 production run, resulting in a few steel pennies with the 1944 date. These are among the rarest coins in all of U.S. numismatics. Fewer than 30 are believed to exist across all mints. A genuine 1944 steel penny can sell for tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Depending on its condition, many forgeries exist, so authentication by an expert or grading service is crucial. In addition to the steel cent error, there are also famous double die varieties and repunched mint marks known among collectors. For example, the 1944 D over S. Mint mark variety shows signs of a San Francisco S. Mint mark struck first and then overpunched by a D. This likely happened due to a transitional error when minting dies were reassigned from one facility to another. Small details like this make coin hunting exciting because they reveal the human side of minting mistakes and historical processes that occurred under intense wartime pressure. Throughout the decades, the 1944 wheat penny has come to represent more than just a piece of currency. It is a symbol of resilience during one of the most challenging times in American history. Every coin minted that year carries a story of soldiers abroad, citizens recycling metal for the war effort, and a nation determined to prevail against hardship. It circulated through countless hands, from factory workers to farmers, from soldiers returning home to children saving pennies for the future. The design of the wheat penny remained unchanged that year, featuring the classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. On the obverse side, Brenner's initials VDB, which had caused controversy in 1909, were still absent from the coin in 1944, only to return in later years. On the reverse, two stylized wheat ears frame the words 1 cent and United States of America, symbolizing abundance, prosperity, and growth after years of economic depression and war. The simple yet powerful imagery connected citizens with the ideals of unity and renewal. Over time, as silver and gold coins were gradually withdrawn from circulation, the humble wheat penny remained a constant companion for generations of Americans. By the time the design changed in 1959 to the Lincoln Memorial reverse, millions of 1944 wheat cents were already tucked away by collectors who recognized their special place in history. Today, these coins can still be found in old jars, drawers, and family heirlooms. They are often one of the first coins new collectors discover, which makes them a gateway into the fascinating world of numismatics. For a YouTube audience, the story of the 1944 wheat penny can unfold over time. By diving deeper into the historical context, you could explore how wartime production affected every aspect of American life and connect the coin's composition to the broader story of resource management during World War II. You can discuss how coin shortages influenced daily transactions and how the American public reacted when they noticed changes in their small change. People often hoarded coins believing they might become rare or valuable, and in many ways, their instinct was right. As the video continues, you can explore how the 1944 penny traveled through post-war America. It became part of paychecks during the economic recovery years. It clinked in the pockets of factory workers and school children, and it symbolized a new beginning. When the war ended, every coin tells a small part of that shared national story. And collectors today keep those stories alive each time they study or trade these historic pieces. You can also dedicate segments to the technical aspects of minting, such as how the planchets were prepared, how dies were engraved, and how the wartime pressures caused mints to operate around the clock, producing billions of coins with remarkable consistency. The craftsmanship of mint workers during that era is often underappreciated, yet without their dedication, the U.S. Mint could not have met the demand for circulating coins in a growing economy. Another interesting part of the 2-hour video could focus on real collector stories showing how people found rare errors or preserved rolls of uncirculated 1944 wheat cents for decades. You could feature grading examples from PCGS or NGC to help viewers understand how condition affects value. Mint state coins with bright luster are still sought after today, especially from the Denver and San Francisco mints. Some collectors even specialize only in wartime Lincoln cents from 1941 to 1945, which form a historically rich subset within the series. The history of the 1945 wheat penny begins in the final year of World War II, a time when the United States Mint was producing billions of coins to support the growing needs of a wartime economy. The wheat penny or Lincoln cent had already become an American icon by this time, having been first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, designed by Victor David Brenner. The coin featured a portrait of Lincoln on the obverse and two wheat stalks on the reverse, symbolizing prosperity and abundance. By 1945, the design had already been in circulation for over 3 decades and had become a familiar sight in the pockets of millions of Americans. The 1945 wheat penny was made primarily from bronze composed of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. This composition had been restored in 1944 after a brief experiment with steel cents in 1943 due to wartime metal shortages. During 1943, the mint used zinc-coated steel to conserve copper for ammunition and military equipment. But those steel cents rusted easily and were unpopular with the public. In 1944, the mint switched back to the original bronze composition, using recycled shell casings from military training grounds and battlefields, making the 1944 and 1945 wheat pennies a true symbol of wartime recycling and patriotism. The 1945 wheat penny was struck at 3 United States mint locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia coins have no mint mark, while the Denver coins feature a small D below the date, and the San Francisco coins have an S. The combined mintage for 1945 was enormous, with over 1 billion coins produced, making it one of the most common wheat pennies ever minted. Specifically, the Philadelphia Mint struck around 1,515,000 coins. The Denver Mint produced approximately 268,000, and the San Francisco Mint minted about 181,770,000. This large output ensured that 1945 wheat pennies circulated widely across the nation. In terms of appearance, the 1945 wheat penny shares the same iconic design as other coins in the Lincoln Wheat series. The obverse displays the bust of Abraham Lincoln facing right with the inscriptions, "Liberty on the left," and "In God we trust," above his head. The date 1945 appears to the right. On the reverse, the design features 2 wheat stalks curving along the edges, surrounding the words, "1 cent." and United States of America. The motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one appears at the top. This simple yet powerful design represented the American spirit of unity and progress. Even though the 1945 wheat penny is common, its historical significance makes it popular among collectors. It marks the end of the wartime era and reflects America's transition from conflict to peace. During 1945, the nation was celebrating victory in Europe and anticipating the end of the war in the Pacific. The penny was part of everyday life, a small copper coin that carried the hopes of soldiers returning home and families rebuilding their lives. After the war, the mint continued producing the wheat penny until 1958, when the reverse design was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial. Collectors often look for 1945 wheat pennies in high-grade condition, especially those with original luster and sharp detail. Most circulated coins are worth only a few cents due to their high mintage, but uncirculated examples can fetch higher prices depending on their grade. Red examples, meaning coins with full copper color, can be especially valuable in mint state condition. Some rare varieties and errors from 1945, such as doubled dies off center strikes or repunched mint marks, can also attract collector interest. In a broader sense, the 1945 wheat penny tells the story of an America emerging from war. The copper used in these coins came from recycled shell casings, symbolizing how the tools of war were being transformed into instruments of peace. The coin also reflects the resilience and unity of the American people who faced economic hardship and global conflict, yet continued to believe in progress and democracy. The wheat ears on the reverse represented abundance and hope for a better future. The 1945 penny also stands at an interesting crossroads in numismatic history. It marks one of the last years when coins were produced with materials directly linked to the war effort, and it precedes the post-war boom that would bring major changes to coinage technology and design. By studying the 1945 wheat penny, one gains insight into the culture and economy of mid-century America, a time when even the smallest coin could carry great meaning. The production of wheat pennies like those of 1945 involved meticulous craftsmanship. Each coin began as a blank copper disc or planchet that was fed into a press and struck with tremendous force between two dies. The obverse die carried Lincoln's portrait while the reverse die bore the wheat design. The resulting coins were then inspected, packaged, and shipped to banks nationwide. Despite the sheer volume of coins produced, the mint maintained high standards of quality, though minor variations in striking pressure or die wear sometimes created collectible varieties. In circulation, the 1945 penny would have been used for everything from buying a newspaper to a piece of candy. It was a coin that passed through the hands of factory workers, soldiers, and children alike, and each one carried a silent story of its time. Many of these coins remained in circulation well into the 1960s and 1970s, long after the wheat design was retired. Today, collectors often find them in old jars or inherited coin collections, a tangible link to the past. For those creating a YouTube video about the 1945 wheat penny, the story can be expanded to include visuals of wartime America factory production and the mints that produced these coins. The narrative can explore the transition from the steel pennies of 1943 to the bronze coins of 1944 and 1945, emphasizing how the coinage reflected the nation's industrial and military efforts. It can also delve into the life and legacy of Abraham Lincoln and how his image became a symbol of national unity through the coin that bears his likeness. As the video progresses, the story can explore how collectors value and grade these coins, explaining terms like mint, state red-brown, and red-brown toning and luster. You can show examples of rare mint mark varieties and common circulation wear, helping viewers understand what to look for in their own collections. The historical backdrop of 1945, including the end of the war and the dawn of the atomic age, adds depth and emotion to the story of this humble coin. In conclusion, the 1945 wheat penny is not just a piece of metal, but a reflection of American resilience, hope, and recovery. It connects the past to the present, reminding us that even the smallest objects can hold immense historical meaning. The history of the 1950 wheat penny is a fascinating chapter in the story of American coinage and represents the closing years of an era that began in 1909 when the Lincoln cent was first introduced, designed by Victor David Brenner. The wheat penny, also known as the Lincoln wheat cent, was created to celebrate the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, who served as the 16th President of the United States. This design became one of the most iconic and longest running in U.S. history, and by 1950, it had already been in circulation for more than 4 decades. During this period, the penny continued to be struck in its familiar form, featuring Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and 2 wheat stalks surrounding the words 1 cent on the reverse. This reverse design symbolized prosperity and agricultural strength, which were central themes in early 20th century America. The 1950 wheat penny was struck at 3 different U.S. mint locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint produced 272 million coins. The Denver Mint produced 334 million, and the San Francisco Mint struck just over 118 million. These large mintages reflected a growing post-war economy after World War II. America was booming, and the demand for small-denomination coins was high. As consumers were spending more and production and trade were rapidly increasing, the coin was made, primarily of copper, containing 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. This alloy composition was standard for most wheat pennies except for the wartime years when the composition was temporarily changed due to metal shortages. During 1950, the U.S. Mint had fully reverted to the traditional bronze composition after the steel cents of 1943, and this gave the coin its familiar reddish-brown tone over time. However, exposure to air moisture and handling caused the coins to darken to a brown or even blackish color. Collectors often value the 1950 wheat penny, not because it is rare, but because it represents a period of economic optimism and recovery. Following years of global turmoil, the design itself carried deep meaning, with Lincoln's image symbolizing unity and freedom, while the wheat ears represented American prosperity. The coin's motto, "In God We Trust," which had first appeared on the Lincoln cent in 1909, continued to serve as a statement of faith and national identity on the obverse side. The designer's initials VDB can still be faintly seen below Lincoln's shoulder. This was a point of controversy in 1909, when the initials were first added in large letters on the reverse, leading to public criticism and their temporary removal by 1950. However, the initials had been discreetly restored on the front side of the coin and remained there thereafter. Examining the year 1950 itself gives further insight into the context in which these pennies circulated. The United States was entering a decade of prosperity, with new industries emerging, suburban life expanding, and the baby boom generation beginning to take shape. It was also the early stage of the Cold War, when Americans began to experience both optimism and tension. In equal measure, these historical currents influenced all aspects of American life, including currency, which remained a vital part of daily transactions. While larger denomination coins and paper bills were gaining importance in an increasingly modern economy, the penny still held its place in everyday commerce. Children used them for candy vending machines, accepted them for small treats, and countless Americans saved them in jars or rolled them up for bank deposits in the numismatic world. The 1950 wheat penny is generally considered a common date coin due to its large mintage. However, it still holds interest for collectors because it can be found in several conditions and varieties. Uncirculated examples, especially those with bright red luster, are highly sought after. The Denver Mint issue, marked with a small D below the date, tends to be the most commonly found in circulation, while the San Francisco issue marked with an S is less common, but still widely available. Coins from the Philadelphia Mint have no mint mark, as was standard practice during this period. When evaluating the value of 1950 wheat pennies, collectors consider several factors, including mint mark, color grading, and any possible minting errors. Coins graded as red mint state examples, especially those with full luster and few blemishes, can command strong premiums in the market depending on the condition. They can range from a few cents in circulated condition to several dollars or even more for high-grade specimens. There are also known die varieties and minor minting errors that attract collector attention. For example, some 1950 D pennies display slight repunching of the mint mark, where the D was stamped more than once. These small anomalies can add considerable value to a coin for those who study the minting process. The 1950 wheat penny also offers insight into the technological methods of the mid-20th century. During this era, dies were still prepared largely by hand, though mechanical precision was improving rapidly. Compared to earlier decades, the mint used presses that could produce coins more efficiently and with greater uniformity. As a result, the coins from this year tend to exhibit crisp details on Lincoln's portrait, the wheat stalks, and the inscriptions. One of the most remarkable aspects of the wheat penny series is how it connects to American history and culture across generations. By 1950, the design had become familiar to nearly every American, symbolizing both continuity and trust in the nation's values. Many people born during the first half of the century grew up using these coins in daily life. The 1950 issue stood as a bridge between the early designs of the 20th century and the modern coins that would follow in 1959. The wheat reverse would be retired and replaced with the Lincoln Memorial design, marking the end of an era that had lasted 50 years. The transition reflected changing artistic tastes and national sentiments as the United States looked toward the future. But for collectors and historians alike, The 1950 wheat penny remains a tangible link to the past, carrying with it stories of industry resilience and national pride. Today, these coins continue to circulate in small numbers occasionally found in pocket change or discovered in old coin jars. They evoke nostalgia for a simpler time when pennies truly held value and when craftsmanship in coinage reflected the ideals of a nation. Each 1950, wheat penny tells a story not only of its minting, but also of the countless hands it passed through, representing decades of American life for those creating educational or historical content about the 1950 wheat penny. It is worth exploring not only its production and design, but also the broader economic and cultural climate of post-war America. The year 1950 marked a turning point in the world with new technologies, consumer goods, and global relations shaping modern life. While these pennies may seem small, they are artifacts of this transformation, a perfect subject for numismatic enthusiasts and history lovers alike. The wheat penny remains more than just a coin. It is a symbol of perseverance, artistry, and American identity, and the 1950 edition captures that spirit beautifully through its blend of tradition and modernity that defined the mid-20th century.